Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Wednesday class. But first, let's do some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavasva, Tatsavitra Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityurma amritam gamya. Om sahna vavtu, sahna bhunaktu, saviryam karvavai, tejasvi navadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti 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 om. When we study the scriptures, or when we sit near a teacher or a guru, they talk about knowledge, the importance of knowledge. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talked about outer knowledge, inner knowledge, kshetra, kshetragya, gyan, vigyan. He talks about the extraordinary nature of the Atma, the true self, which is unborn, unchanging, which really illumines everything. But then when we turn our attention outward, towards the world, we look at the vastness. The sky, vast expanse of the space, filled with planets, stars, galaxies, stretching out to inconceivably great distance. So inside also, outside also. And somebody can say that's a lot to examine. Scientists also, they kept looking at it. They are still exploring it. And the rishis also, from the ancient times, they also did that. And it boils down to three main questions. What is all this? Inside or outside? Where did it come from? And how did I get here? What is my role in it? So these three questions were pondered by the scientists also and by the rishis also. And the scientists, the modern scientists, they came to the conclusion that this universe is composed of matter and energy, particles like electrons, protons, combined to form 92 natural elements. Those are the building blocks for all that exists in the universe, including our own bodies. And the ancient rishis, when they pondered upon it, they considered the universe based upon three qualities or the gunas. Tamas, the quality of inertia, Rajas, the quality of activity, and the Sattva, the quality of purity. So these three guns are considered the fundamental constituents from which everything in the universe arises. That's what the rishis said. And they also recognized five elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. Obviously, there are huge differences between the modern and ancient worldview, but they both agree on one important point. This universe is made up of fundamental stuff. Whether we define that stuff as three gunas or as matter and energy doesn't make any difference when we do the inquiry. But the second question, where did it come from? Or we can rephrase the question, where did the three gunas come from? Where did the matter and energy come from? Science traces the origin of the universe to the Big Bang. They say that about 14 billion years ago, infinitely small, infinitely hot, infinitely dense object known as a singularity exploded with the unimaginable force, Big Bang. And that explosion continues even today as our universe goes on expanding. That's all fine, but we can still ask, where did the singularity that exploded come from? With this question, we reach the limits of science. Because scientists are unable to peer into the time before the Big Bang. Why not? Because time itself came into existence with the Big Bang. So there was no such thing as time before the Big Bang. So how can we ask what really preceded that? Sure, some scientists, they speculate. They think that the singularity might somehow be a remnant of another universe that no longer exists. But that idea is similar to the teachings of the Vedas. Because Vedas, they describe a cyclic universe. The universe which keeps on going through cycles of manifestation. So manifestation and then ultimately dissolution. See, just as living beings are subject to a cycle of birth, growth, death, and then a rebirth, the universe also undergoes a similar cycle. This universe was preceded by a prior universe, which was itself preceded by yet another universe, and so on. So cycle. But then some people ask, when did the first universe come into existence? That's almost like asking, where does a cycle begin? Where is the starting point? And if you really ponder upon it, a cycle, like a circle, has no beginning and no end. It keeps on going. See, we think linear, but actually it's a cycle. So from this, we can conclude that an already like an infinite number of universes have already come. Infinite number. They have come and they have gone, and the universe in which we live in will be followed by infinite more. It just keeps on going. But still we can ask, because these questions should come into our mind. Where did this infinite series of universes come from? Or we can ask a related question, who or what is the source or creator of the cyclic universe? Because if something is created, there has to be a creator. So up to this point, you can say that this inquiry is based upon the cosmology. That is a study of the cosmos we often talk about. But when we go deeper into these questions, this inquiry, We have to enter from cosmology to the theology, the study of the theos. That is a Greek word for God. Vedic approach to theology, as we will soon see, is radically different from the approach adopted by Western religions. Western religions are Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Because in these religions, God is an article of faith. The existence and nature of God is purely a matter of belief. It's utterly beyond the scope of any kind of reasoning or rational deliberation in these faiths. They say that Bible and the Quran are the scriptural basis for these beliefs. And they consider that scripture alone is the authoritative support for logic or reason. There's no need to think about it logically. Scripture said it, and that is it. So that's why steadfast faith in the scriptures is essential. And that faith is called a blind faith. When the faith is not supported by logic or reason, it's blind faith. In fact, reason is often looked upon with skepticism or even with contempt, because reason can sometimes contradict what's taught in the Bible and the Quran. But unlike these Western religions, the Sanatana Dharma, the Vedic teachings, they never move away from the reason and rational discourse. Quite the opposite. They encourage the reasoning or the debates also. If a scripture cannot be reconciled with both reason and experience, it won't be accepted on face value. And that's why the great scholar, the teacher, Adi Shankaracharya ji, famously he said that, it's written in the commentary on Bhagavad Gita by him, that if 100 scriptures say that fire is cold or dark, none of these scriptures can be accepted as authoritative. Okay? So scriptures, sure, but then scriptures should be, there should be logic and reasoning behind what's written in the scriptures. So now to better understand the relationship between the scripture and the reason, let's look at one of the verses from Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure you're all familiar with this, chapter 4, verse number 39. Shraddhavan labhate jnana. Tatpara sanyat indriya. What is he telling us? One who has a Shraddha, Shraddha means the faith, gains knowledge. So based upon this small part of this beautiful verse, faith itself is not the goal. It's just the beginning point of a process of inquiry that eventually culminates in the acquisition of knowledge. So faith is needed to have the knowledge. Just to say that I have a faith and then stop there, that is not it. In this case, knowledge of the existence and nature of the God. But how can faith lead to knowledge? We need to examine that. The scriptures express discoveries made by the ancient rishis, and we use those scriptures as guides for our own process of inquiry. So we don't just take it blindly. We seek to personally discover what those rishis discovered. My Guru says, we are the Atma. I walk in the light of my Atma. Then he encourages us that, hey, you got to do the sadhana so that you can experience that light of yours too. So those are like scriptures or scriptural truths should motivate us to do the sadhana and to discover our own truth. So in order to use these scriptures effectively, we need to have faith, definitely. Trust in the value and validity of those scriptures to walk further. It's almost like if you go to a foreign country, new place. Sure, these days we have a technology, but in the old times we used to have the guidebooks. So sightseeing was done by the guidebooks. So the information in the guidebook must be accurate. Only then you can find your way around. So the scriptures are guidebooks for us. Just worshipping the scriptures is not enough. Studying the scriptures, understanding it, then ultimately living a life according to that, and then finding your own truth. It's important to point out that our use of the word faith here is quite different from how it's used in Western religions, actually. Because it suggests blind, unquestioned acceptance. That is a blind faith. Unquestioned. You're not supposed to question it. So instead of using the word faith to translate the word Shraddha, because in Sanskrit it's called Shraddha, Shraddhavan labde jnana. It would be more accurate to say trust in anticipation of personal verification. Okay, so ultimately the personal verification has to be there. We trust the scriptures to lead us to gain the knowledge of the existence and nature of God. And when we have gained this knowledge, the soundness of our trust will be borne out. As we use the scriptures to guide our process of inquiry, we'll sometimes encounter situations where the scriptures appear to be contradicted by logic and reason. And whenever we see this kind of a contradiction, we need to resolve it. And they can be fully resolved if you have the access to a proper teacher. Or if we have authoritative commentaries on the scriptures. Because we haven't experienced it yet, contradiction will arise in our mind. So the clarity is needed. That's why in Sanatan Dharma, the presence of a guru in our life has the utmost importance. But Guru never says that I have experienced it, that is enough for you. No. Guru encourages all of us to do the sadhana so we can experience our truth also. So you have to believe in the existence of God, that the Western religion says, but Sanatan Dharam says there is absolutely no room for this kind of a blind faith with regard to existence and nature of God or anything else. In fact, blind faith can actually cause problems. It can be an obstacle to knowledge. Many devout, deeply religious people are content to rely solely on their faith in God. They say that we have a faith. They consider faith to be all that's needed. So they don't have any interest in gaining personal knowledge. No sadhana, just faith alone of God's existence and nature. They feel that strength of their faith will always support and protect them. So any further spiritual inquiry is unnecessary according to them. Unfortunately, such faith gives them a false sense of security. Why? Because no matter how strong their faith might be, it can be shaken under certain circumstances. Even if their faith can withstand the usual challenges and losses in life at times of extreme misfortunes, their faith could be overpowered by doubt. At such times, they might cry out in agony, "Oh God, where are you? Why aren't you helping me?" Sadly, devout people can sometimes be deserted by their faith in God at those very times when they are most in need of comfort and support. No one's faith is unshakable. Remember that. If you read the autobiographies of the great people, you'll find that in the dark times, their faith was shaken. Faith is inherently fragile. It's based on the strength of our minds. And our minds are always subject to moments of weakness. Mind is part of the Prakriti. And in the Prakriti, everything changes. So mind can change too. When the mind changes, the faith is gone. Knowledge, on the other hand, is unshakable. It's like an experienced knowledge. So knowledge is based on truth, not on the strength of our minds. That's why it's always steadfast and it's dependable. Imagine in the middle of a terrible crisis or tragedy. Would you have any doubt as to whether 2 plus 2 equals 4? You have the knowledge. You have the experience of it. So that becomes unshakable. So knowledge is unshakable and never deserts you. So in the Vedas, Vedic seers, they say that our goal is not to promote or instill any kind of a belief with regards to existence and nature of God. Instead, our goal is a personal, direct knowledge, which is called experience, realization. But then, is such knowledge really possible? Well, if ancient rishis could gain this knowledge by following these teachings, we should also be able to do so. It will be really helpful if we give up our use of the word God, actually. The word God means different things to different people. And it often comes with lots of preconceptions and funny notions, this word God. That's why a lot of people, they just don't want to use the word God. Let's use the correct Sanskrit word for it. Ishwar. Ishwar. Ishwar can be defined as the source of the universe, the one because of whom everything exists. Or in the language of Western philosophy, Ishwar is the first cause or the uncaused cause. We are familiar with the cause of everything, but there's no cause of Ishwar. Something cannot come from nothing. The universe is a something. Therefore, it must have come from something. That something because of which the universe exists, we call it Ishwar. So where did it come from? From Ishwar. In this way, we can establish the existence of Ishwar as the first cause. Be simply established in this way, but to fully understand the nature of Ishwar requires further inquiry. In the language of the Vedas, the universe in which we live is the effect or karya for which Ishwar is the cause, the karan. So this is a karya, Ishwar is the karan. In this way, Ishwar and the universe have a cause-effect relationship. Cause-effect relationships imply that for any karya, for any effect, or created thing, there must be a suitable karan. A cause that has the capacity to produce a particular effect. So Ishwar is the one who is the cause of all this. There's no cause for the Ishwar, but for the manifested world, cause is the Ishwar. So to understand this cause-effect relationship, we'll have to distinguish between two different kinds of causes. First is the material cause, which is the material stuff from which the effect is made. Like the vegetables, the grains, the other ingredients needed to prepare a meal. That's a material effect, material used to create something. In Sanskrit, this material cause is called upadan karan. Upadan. And the second kind of a cause is the efficient cause, the agent that produces the effect. In our example, like the cook who skillfully prepares the meal. So that is called the efficient cause, nimit karan. So material cause and efficient. Upadan karan and the nimit karan. To understand these two different kinds of cause, let's take another example, a clay pot. Our scriptures use that example often. Clay pot. That's a created object. That means that's an effect, the karya. For that clay pot, there must be a suitable material. So upadan karan is what? The clay, the material from which that pot was made. And then efficient cause is what? Which is called a nivit karan. That's a potter who has the knowledge of pots, who has the skillfulness to make the pots. So these two causes, upadan karan and nimit karan, both are required to make and create anything. For example, to make cloth, upadan karan is the thread, and the required nimit karan is a weaver who has knowledge of cloth as well as the skill of weaving. So both are needed. Otherwise, if the thread is there and there is no nimit karan, the thread will stay as a thread. And if there's no thread, only the weaver is there, doesn't have the substance to make the cloth either. Both are needed. Or you can look at these days, these computers, to make a complex computer chip containing millions of microscopic transistors, upadan karan is needed. The copper, the silicon, and other materials required. And what is a nimit karan? Nimit karan is the team of the scientists, engineers, technicians who really have the knowledge of complex computer chips, technical skills to manufacture them. So you see, everything, whatever is created, these two causes are needed. From a simple part to the complex computer. So now let's apply all this to understanding the nature of Ishwar. Because the topic over here is this universe. Sure, with these examples we can understand it too, but let's just take our attention towards the Ishwar. The creator of this universe. So the universe must have a suitable material cause, upadan karan, and a suitable efficient cause, nimit karan. Let's take the nimit karan first. Just like to create a pot, potter is required. Both the knowledge of the pots and the skill to make the pots. So the same way to create the universe, its creator, Ishwar, must possess both knowledge of the universe and the skill or power needed to create the universe. So needed both. So we can conclude that Ishwar must be a conscious being. Only a conscious being can possess knowledge and skill. Unconscious being can do it. And next question might come, what is the nature of the knowledge and skill that Ishwar possesses? See, just like a potter needs a certain particular skill, Ishwar has the particular skill, power needed to create the universe. And that power is properly known as Maya, Maya Shakti. That power. That is God's power. You can call it a Yoga Maya. It can be understood in several ways, but in this context, it means Ishwar's power of creation, Ishwar's creative capacity, so in the art of creation, using that art, Ishwar is the agent who wields Maya. That's why Ishwar is also called Maya Adhyaksha. We human beings are Maya Adheen. He is Maya Adhyaksha. He wields Maya, his power of creation, to bring the universe into existence. And in addition to the skill of creation, he has the knowledge also. So just like a potter had the clay and the skill to make it, the same way, in addition to having the power of Maya, Ishwar also possesses the knowledge of the entire universe. That means Ishwar has the intelligence necessary to fashion the universe in such a way that planets continue to orbit their stars without flying off into the deep space. He has that knowledge. Electrons stay in their atomic orbits without collapsing into the nucleus. and intelligent life can evolve on at least, we can at least see that with our little power on one planet where we are living. And we are searching other places. There are billions and billions of planets in the cosmos. We are searching for it. But at least we know it does exist over here. So all this is evidence of Ishwar's knowledge. That's why when we look up or look within, we are amazed. With this little intelligence which we have right now, it's hard to comprehend. But when we make this intelligence, this buddhi shakti higher, and that's why we say those mantras also. The Gayatri mantra, why do we recite that? We are praying to God. Please, God, make my intellect higher. Make it sharp also, make it subtle also, so that I can understand your creation. So that I can see you. You are here. I understand. I have faith that you are here, but I want to experience it. I just don't want to have a blind faith. I want the experienced knowledge so that it becomes my truth. Sure, the rishis, they saw it. They could see the light, the divine light everywhere, but I want to see it too. I just don't want to have it just blindly, just only believe in it. I have a Shraddha, but I want the experience also. We can easily appreciate the great skill of distinguished artists in the beauty and the magnificence of their artwork. We do that. At a grosser level, we see that. Somebody creates something, we are in awe. How was that art piece made? How that article was written? How a beautiful musician sings? We can see the extensive knowledge of brilliant engineers. When we see the rockets and the planes, or the robots these days, especially when they send these robotic rovers to the moon and the Mars, we are amazed by it. But in the same way, we should look at Ishwar's immeasurable knowledge and power. In every speck and corner of this vast universe. And nowhere Ishwar's knowledge and power more spectacularly manifest than in the intricate web of billions of neurons in our brains. That brain of ours makes it possible for us to ask, what is all this? I'm sure when you were little, you wondered about it. Looking up, what is up out there? How vast is it? How big this universe is? Where does it end? And if it ends, what is beyond that? Our brains think like that. Or where did it come from? How did I get here? So Ishwar is the Namit Karan, the creator of the universe. So these kind of questions, not only as a child we used to ask, even now we should keep on inquiring. Keep on thinking about it. If both things are needed, upadan karan, nimitt karan both, suppose the upadan, nimitt karan, we can see that God created it. But where did the upadan karan come? Ponder upon these questions, just like our rishis did, and find your own answer. This is what the Vedic rishis encourage us to do. They have given us the guidelines, but then our own reflection and introspection is needed. That's why they say there are 3 parts to learning. Whether you are learning Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or anything else, so 3 parts. Shravana, Manana, Nidhi, Dhyasana. So sure, you got to read it or hear it, then mentally reflect upon it. But do not stop until you experience it. Your own experience. It's almost like if somebody says, honey is sweet. You heard it, honey is sweet. Then you reflect upon it. What is the sweetness? Then until you taste honey, it becomes your truth. Don't stop until that. Because once you have tasted it, you will never forget it. And this is what happens with this divinity also. Once you have experienced it, then I am the Atma. I'm not the body. I'm not the mind. I'm not the intellect either. These are just the tools given to me to know myself. These beautiful tools we have gotten, but we are using it for something so superficial. These beautiful tools have been given to us to know ourselves. And that's what we need to do. And that's what our rishis keep on telling us, gurus keep on telling us. Use these tools properly for the purpose they are intended for. Let's stop it here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much for listening.